When Joe Biden was running for president, he said repeatedly that he's against the death penalty and that he's going to get rid of the death penalty at the federal level. I don't know how much influence Joe Biden would have when it comes to the death penalty at the state level. I know there are many red states that are very pro-death penalty, and perhaps, his arsenal is limited in terms of fighting back against that. But definitely at the federal level, he can do something about it. There's no doubt about it. And understand that it's supposed to be his Catholic views, his religiosity, that have led him to a conclusion on the death penalty that differs from what it is now. Namely, that it's immoral, it's unethical, it's not right, and human life is precious. And so therefore, we should be against it as a matter of principle. Even if somebody does commit a horrific crime and they're a terrible person and there's no signs of rehabilitation, that it says something about society that you respond in kind. Oh, you murder people, so now we're going to murder you to show that murder is wrong? I mean, you guys know my thing on violence. I believe the only time it's okay is for imminent self-defense. That's the only time I can think of a moral justification to use violence. But this truly isn't that. The death penalty truly isn't that because there is no current threat. The threat is neutralized. The threat is already locked up. So to do the death penalty really doesn't make much sense from a moral or an ethical perspective, in my estimation. Joe Biden seemingly agreed. Well, now take a look at this. This is from Slate. They say Joe Biden's Craven death penalty reversal in the Boston bomber case. So, he said repeatedly on the campaign trail he's going to get rid of the federal use of the death penalty. Not only did he not do that, he filed a brief with the Supreme Court trying to bring back the death penalty for the Boston bomber, Dzhokhar Zarnev, or however you pronounce his name. Now, I want to be clear about something. What I'm saying here is not a defense of Zarnev at all. I understand. In fact, I have that innate visceral reaction when you see heinous crimes. I definitely feel like, well, that person deserves death. Like, I have that thing that a lot of people have where they see a horrific crime and, there's zero remorse and it's just as vicious as you can imagine. And I think, yeah, that person deserves death. So this isn't a defense of him. But it is to say, Joe Biden fucking lied. He lied on the campaign trail. He said he's against the death penalty. He said he's going to, which by the way, is kind of funny. Why would you say you're against it when this is one of the rare issues where the left-wing position actually isn't the popular position? So when you're running for office, if you wanted to appeal to the crowd more and you were going to lie, you could have said, I'm for it. And then when you're elected, you could be against it. That would be a better flip-flop. But this is, he ran on the unpopular position, which was seemingly a bold stance to say, I'm against the death penalty, because that's not what the majority of Americans. And then he flipped to being for it, which again is the more popular position. It makes no sense politically. It makes no sense in any way, shape, or form. But he fucking lied. He just flat out lied. Oh, I'm against it. Oh, I'm going to get rid of it. And then he's not even taking like a hands-off approach. This is like, I am actively going to try to bring back the death penalty for this guy. I feel like this is the perfect microcosm of Joe Biden, the politician. It really is. It's especially this most recent campaign where, to give you another example, he ran on the public option for healthcare. Now, I wish he was running on Medicare for all. I think it's inexcusable that he's not running on Medicare for all, but he ran on the public option. And as soon as he got elected, that totally dropped from his agenda. Totally dropped. So it was, let's do a public option to compete with the private sector, and then it became, well, let's just give massive subsidies for COBRA, which is just a giveaway to the for-profit health insurance companies, and let's expand Obamacare more. Well, guess what? You're still going to have tens of millions of people without health care as a result of that. But he ran on the public option, then he backed away from it, and there was almost nobody called him out on it. It's just like, the media was just like, okay, I guess that's what he's doing. Do you guys have no standards? Do you guys have no principles? Are you incapable of looking at what's happening and then responding to it fairly? And the answer is apparently yes. That's exactly what it is. because nobody really called him out on it. We're one of very few people who called him out on it. And now, credit to Slate for covering this one in particular. But yes, this is definitely Joe Biden in a nutshell here. He's said one thing on the campaign trail that was nominally more left, and then now he's elected, and he's going hard right. In fact, they go on to say in this article, get this, his position now on this issue is the exact same as the Trump administration, because the Trump administration apparently tried to do the same thing, reinstate the death penalty for this guy. No difference on this particular issue between Biden and Trump. I wonder what went on behind the scenes. I wonder what explanation he would give as to how this happened, why this happened. Is it, hey, I just don't want to waste political capital on this unpopular position? But he could have done nothing. Instead, he's actively going in the wrong direction. Was he convinced by a staff member that it's something he couldn't do? It's just amazing to me that when you get people who are on the right in office, they are fighters and they crusade for their policies. Then you get people on the left and they're compromisers and they give the Republicans half of what they want, if not more. And so you don't actually get any real left representation. When was the last time you heard any politician really make a strong affirmative case against the death penalty? I don't know if I've ever heard it. Have you? I don't know if I've ever heard it. This is something we've talked about on this show, but the thing that really changed my mind was that study that came out which said about 4% of people on death row are completely innocent. They've committed no crime. 4%. 4%. That means 4 out of every 100 people who are killed by the state are totally innocent. And so they are murdered by the state with our tax money. See, what that tells me is even if you have that initial reaction of like, yeah, that person deserves death for that terrible crime or whatever, still doesn't make sense to be for the death penalty, because what you're saying is murder's okay if it's 4% of the time. I can't live with that, especially because we're funding it. It's our money that's killing them. When was the last time you heard a politician just say that very basic thing I just said? Where you don't even have to defend the criminals or the crimes in order to make that case. That case is a very big picture, macro level case as to what you're signing up for if you agree to the death penalty. I've never heard a politician make that argument. I don't think I ever have. How pathetic is that? Nobody's making left-wing arguments. And so here's Joe Biden saying one thing on the campaign trail, doing the complete opposite. And again, only Slate called him out. I haven't seen anybody else call him out. Just a complete and utter flip-flop, a complete reversal. No explanation, no nothing. I said this, I'm going to do this. And by the way, when they ever do discuss these sorts of things, they say, oh, it's a pivot. A pivot. A pivot. They make it sound like an exercise or a move in some sporting event. I pivoted. That's a way to clean up what it really is, which was a lie. And they do this all the time. In the primary, I said this, and in the general election, I said the opposite. I evolved. I pivoted. If the media did their job, they would say, so you lied. You said one thing and now you're saying the opposite. You're a liar. But they've just grandfathered in that this is what politicians do. Well, maybe this is one of the reasons why people despise politicians. Unbelievable, man. It's totally flipped. I'm against the death penalty, for my religious beliefs, and it's not okay, and the state shouldn't be involved in this sort of business. And then as soon as he gets in power, not only am I not against it, I'm actively going to try to bring it back for the Boston bomber. Again, this is to say nothing about the Boston bomber at all. But it is to say, Joe Biden's a fucking liar. And he lies nonstop. And we all know that when it comes to Trump, they called out the lies 24/7, sometimes perfectly legitimately, sometimes they nitpicked and were silly. But you're supposed to call out the lies of a politician. With Biden, only Slate did it on this one. I haven't seen anybody else do it. So, how pathetic is that? You have to come to this YouTube show to get this very clear flip-flop and reversal from Joe Biden. That says a lot, not about how good we are, but about how terrible mainstream media is.